So in a moment, I'll offer 3 sounds of the bell, and we can just let that sound ripple through. There's nothing to hold on to, allowing this flow of sound, the flow of this moment. Taking a moment to sense our physical presence, to know that we are being supported by the earth. And we can take a moment to check inside to see how it feels to be you, how it feels to be me. You can check inside just to notice what kind of weathers are moving through. It may be a very easy moment to be you, and it may be more difficult. There may be some challenges. There may be a big challenge. So looking with the spirit of friendship to understand how it feels to be you. We're going to do a movement-based practice as part of our arriving practice. So I can demonstrate this, and then we can all do it together, holding this energy of presence and awareness. So with children, I call this starfish. And you imagine that one hand is a starfish. And what we will do is connect with our breath and represent our breath outside our body. So we allow a finger to be our breathing pointer. This finger will show me where my breath is, and I'll demonstrate first, and then we can all try this together. So I start down at the bottom of my thumb, and I wait for my in-breath. The only rule of starfish is not to control your breath, to allow it to be natural. So I wait for an in-breath, and then right as my in-breath becomes an out-breath, I need to be at a very particular point. So I need to reach the top of my thumb just as my in-breath is becoming my out-breath. And then I will breathe down my thumb, allowing that gentle exhalation all the way down. And then just as my out-breath becomes my in-breath, I want to be just inside. And then we will breathe up and down at our own pace. So we'll breathe through our whole hand and then take a moment to check in, and then swap hands, and then take another 5 breaths in mindfulness. So you can do this at your own pace. It might be quicker, it might be slower. So please take your time and enjoy this sensation, breathing outside. Just keeping our attention with this sensation of moving. allowing ourselves to be fascinated. Breathing in and breathing out. Allowing this constant motion. And when you have finished with one hand, just take a moment to check in again to see how it feels to be you. And then we swap hands and explore a whole new world of 5 breaths. You can experiment to see if it feels different, if your eyes are open or if your eyes are closed. Sometimes it feels more intense for me if my eyes are closed. Just this very gentle little journey without any rushing. And when you finish your second hand, you take a moment to rest again. And then we notice what is true in this moment, this new moment. How does it feel to be you in this moment? You might notice have different energies been touched since you arrived in the Zoom call. Have different seeds been awakened and germinated? So we'll come back several times to practice this moment-to-moment awareness, just to notice our weathers moving through. And in a moment, I will sound the bell again, and it can invite us to take a little holiday, to have nothing to do, but enjoy the sound of the bell moving through. So you might like to take a deeper breath or two as we've been sitting for a few minutes. If anything needs stretching or curling or stretching out, can bring a sense of energy into our bodies again. So welcome to week 2 of our course, Happy Minds, Loving Hearts. I'm very grateful to be together. I'll read out the chat so that people know they don't have to pay too much attention. I'll read everything out so that we can hear it easily. So Lizzie has shared, love this, for highly sensitive children, they can slowly point up and down their fingers. Yeah, so for me, starfish it's such a useful practice. Sometimes we really enjoy focusing on our breath, And for some people, focusing on our breath isn't very comfortable. That, for people who experience asthma, or if you have a cold or a flu, like the last thing you want to do is to be inside your lungs. So helping to be a little more outside can be really helpful for us. And with this practice of starfish, it gives us such a practical, like, little laboratory for children and for adults to notice what is the effect of practicing. What do you notice after 2 minutes of practicing? After 2 hands of starfish, or 4 or 6? What is the difference? So it can be wonderful for before bedtime. It can be wonderful when we're feeling very worried or fearful or really angry. It's great. And it's something that sometimes I'm in a group of children and they might not know starfish. They might not have seen or held a starfish, or they might not like them. So it also looks a little bit like a mountain range. So if you're near a mountain, it can be a beautiful range of mountains instead. And it's a practice that we often blend with art. So for example, I was doing starfish the other day. So this is the beginning of it. And what we did afterwards was we put our hand on a piece of paper and traced it. And then anything is possible. So I've seen our hands full of the ocean, full of whales and sea plants and starfish. Often we do a little manual where you show your breath going up and down. And you can see I started filling in how I felt. So at the very beginning, I was a little bit cranky. And then as I complete doing starfish, I get much happier. So it helps me to map out how did I feel. So we had just begun doing this when we finished class. So this can be something that we put up on a fridge or on a wall so that we can also share starfish with members of our family, and as a reminder of how to do it. So I wanted to open the space first to check in together, to see if you have reflections or questions or sharing about your own experience of arriving, of settling, of checking your weather, of trying starfish and checking your weather again. So I will open up this space now. I might pause the recording so that it's private for all of us, so that you know that it's safe to share anything that would like to be shared. So I'm going to pause recording. And I loved that Christina in our sharings had mentioned the healing ability of a starfish. So often when I practice in a group, I won't even begin with mindfulness. I'll go, does anyone know anything about starfish? And lots of different facts. Did you know if a starfish gets its arm trapped under a stone and it loses its arm, it can grow a new arm? Did you know a starfish doesn't have blood? It's seawater going through its system. So it's very deeply connected with the sea. And there are lots of different pieces of information. And sometimes children will tell stories about having seen a starfish at an aquarium or at a beach or under the sea. So we normally just talk about starfish for a little while and then we do the practice. And for me, it is, I don't think I've ever worked with anyone that starfish wasn't helpful for. in terms of helping us just to slow down a little bit. And you might just have been running and go like really, really, really fast. So the speed makes no difference. It's about bringing your attention and just connecting this bridge of your breath between your mind, your attention, and your body. And sometimes I've been working in very aggressive or difficult environments. And I would literally get to a bathroom where I can close a door and do 2 starfish or 6 or 8. And I feel the effect that it has on my nervous system. And then the person who goes back to work is a little bit different than the person who took a break. I find it really helpful as well for during the night. Sometimes I work with adults who have trouble sleeping, and we might all know this. Sometimes we wake in the night and we have 1 thought, 3 thoughts, 9 thoughts, and then we think, I might not get back to sleep. What if I don't get back to sleep? And so starfish is really helpful to sit up in bed, to allow yourself to do 2 or 4. I usually do it in pairs. One night I was sitting up and I was breathing with one hand, and my head kind of did that drop, falling asleep. And I thought, oh, that's fine. I'll just lie back and fall asleep. And I realized my other hand was still quite stressed. I was like, oh, I'll stay awake. 2 starfish. So it's very kind to do it in pairs. And you can also then experiment as we become more familiar with starfish. So one time I was in a meeting and I noticed that my attention was very dispersed. It was not, it was not a very good quality presence, not what I wanted to bring to the meeting. And I thought, I can't start doing starfish now because I will look insane. And so I thought, what if I imagined waiting for my next in-breath and putting how it feels for the pad of my finger to be on my wrist. And I had done it so many times, I could remember it, that I felt the pad of my finger touch my wrist and instantly my body responded. And then with my breath, I simply traced an imaginary line. My hands were still, just traced going up and down and up and down. And after 2 starfish, I was really present and in the room. So we can do invisible starfish when we need it. And sometimes the simplicity of the practice makes some people a little suspicious. They go like, it's so simple. Does it really work? And sometimes I will joke with people to go, oh, we can do advanced starfish. And you can see the people are like, oh, advanced. This is great. So I'm definitely an advanced student. And so for advanced starfish, the invitation is to focus our attention even more. So we are receiving 2 pieces of data when we're moving. So there's the piece of data that my finger is telling me this is what I'm touching, and my hand is telling me I am being touched. So there's 2 different pieces of skin giving data. And so you can try to only prioritize one, to just go, I'm just going to listen to my finger and I'm not going to worry about what my hand is feeling. I'm just going to draw my focus into my tiny little fingertip and feel it going up and down. And then try and swap to say, I'm not going to pay attention to my finger. I am just interested in this moving sensation of being touched that my hand is experiencing. And you just explore. It's training ourselves to be able to choose where to place our attention. And sometimes one is more difficult than the other. Sometimes I find my finger easier than my hand. Hello, welcome. Yay. It's wonderful. It's for everyone. When I was doing the video for YouTube, the YouTube asks, is it made for children? And I was like, Yes, it is. Yay! Because we have children with us, and that's wonderful. So, so that's a little bit about starfish, and then to reflect a little on our weather. This is this is one of the ways that we can help children to share how they're feeling, and even if it's not in words, they might be able to draw how they're feeling. So sometimes we don't have the words to describe, but you see they draw like a darker grey cloud, not a fluffy white cloud. And maybe it's very windy. I was practicing with a child this week and they drew a big, strong, blustery wind because they were feeling, I think it was good excitement. So the wind was good, but the wind isn't always positive for us. And so with weather, one of the things I like about it is that it's not so personal. You know, the weather in Dublin, in Ireland, exists because of loads of other conditions that have nothing to do with Dublin and Ireland. You know, there's weather systems all over the world, and I don't know how they do it exactly, but they magically create the weather for Dublin. And so sometimes we feel really cross or we feel really sad, and we can know that it's not so personal. You know, I noticed during COVID a lot, sometimes there would be waves of fear that everyone felt at the same time, waves of anxiety, waves of sorrow. And when we try and examine it as though it's only ours, as though it's just mine, then that doesn't give us a full understanding of it. Sometimes our family is feeling sad. Sometimes our classroom is feeling sad. And so the other thing about weather is that it gives me a little bit of space, so that it's not just that it's my storm, it's a storm that's moving through me. In the Irish language, we say Tá brón urim, sorrow is upon me. It's the same word as if you were putting on a coat. So you don't say I am sad, because you're so much more than sad. You're sad and a bit tired and a bit hungry. You're many things. So we say sorrow is upon me. And I think that gives us the understanding that these feelings come and go and come and go. And one of the most important things for me about practicing weather and noticing it over and over, easy weather, really difficult weather, weather that you think will never change, that sometimes the sky is so full of really dark clouds that you might have the thought, I might never see the sun again. You know, there might be no more sunshine. This might just be it for the next 40 years of my life. No more sun. And that's a very dangerous thought for us to believe. So all of us will have the thought sooner or later. We will think, I think this is it. Like, I think there's no healing from heartbreak. There's no getting over this. And we really have the thought like of stuckness, of like, I can't live with this my whole life. And so when we practice with our weather regularly, we train ourselves to know that it's constantly moving, that even in the act of looking at it, it's already beginning to move. And that the one thing we're sure of, it's not possible for it to stay the same. So that can give us real hope when we're feeling hopeless, when we feel some despair. And we practice to know that behind any weather, there is a sky that is so vast and so blue and so unconditionally kind. It knows how to take care of any weather. And our job is to find our way back to the sky, to rest back into the sky part of our hearts, so that we can allow the storms, the tsunami, the whirlwinds, we can allow everything to move naturally without trying to push weather or hold weather. We can simply allow ourselves to be a whole human being. And so it can be very helpful as a family or as a classroom to do a weather check. even a couple of times a day. And sometimes do I have sticky notes? Sometimes with a classroom, everyone gets a sticky note and they get to draw their weather on it. And then we make a whole blue sky full of our weather. Storms, rain, fluffy clouds, so much sunshine, rainbows, unicorns, whatever people think of. And it means that we can look to go, this is our experience. It's so easy for some of us and it's really hard for some of us. So it helps us to learn how to take care of each other when we know how our weather is. And so I'd like to give a little space in case there are questions or reflections. Or you can use the chat or you can unmute. I did want to say that sometimes weather doesn't make so much sense to people. I should say that. That sometimes people go, I know how I feel and I don't know what the weather of how I feel is. And that's fine. So sometimes we will do weather and some people will go, I'm just angry or I'm happy. So for some minds, it's very possible to visualize it. And for some minds, it's not so possible. And sometimes we just don't know what we feel. So even if we could say it as weather, we actually just don't know. We can't tell. Often with teenagers, I notice this, that they'll go like, just nothing. I don't know. I have no sense. I can't connect with it and I don't have a word for it. So we can invite the sharing as weather, but we don't need to be too strict about weather. And it's fine to have opposite weathers, a little happy about something, so sad about something else. Sometimes people feel they have every single weather happening at once, explosion of weather. And so for us, what we want to do is to allow every weather to belong. That it's really important to know it's not like there's good weather and bad weather. It's weather. It's just weather. But there's difficult weather and there's easier weather. There's weather that's really challenging and weather that helps us to feel bright and happy and connected and positive. So every weather belongs. Our job is to learn how to take care of every weather. So let me check in with Chow.
I would like to ask if, how to help young children understand their feeling inside and name it through the weather, because I tried this with them and they often look outside in the window and just tell exactly what is outside in the window, or if somebody understands, but the younger one tend to imitate the older one, of the people who sharing in the same circle.
Yeah, that's a great question, Chow. Thank you so much for that. So usually I volunteer my weather first. So I would always say something first. And I do notice that sometimes people imitate my weather. I think that's very normal. And so I would phrase it like, I notice in this moment I'm feeling warm and happy. So I think I feel quite sunny. So sometimes I'll say the feeling first and then the weather after it. And sometimes I'll say, I'll compare it to the outside weather, that I'll go, I look outside and it's so grey and rainy and that's not how I feel at all. I feel sunny. That's how I feel. So I literally explore it in front of them so that they can see. But sometimes people will just copy you anyway, and that's okay. And there was something else that you had shared. No, it's gone for now. If it comes back, I'll say it again. Yeah. So sometimes there's many similarities in weather. and that's okay. But we're beginning to learn, we're beginning to learn the language of this. So when we're 4, we might think in terms of like happy, sad, worried, cranky, tired, bored, maybe. They have a few emotions. And then they get more and more detailed, more nuanced as we get older. That even if a feeling of surprise, well, there's good surprise. That's a good, that's a happy surprise. And then there's like bad surprise. That's like, well, that's a shock. That is not what I wanted to happen. So we get much more fine understanding. And when we talk about happiness, then there are many different flavors of happiness. So we'll explore that more today as our second practice together. And I'm going to read out the chat so that no one has to pay too much attention to the chat. So Lizzie has shared, I just had an idea. Amazing. Already, just having an idea is amazing. I just had an idea to create a pulley system like a clothesline of weathers moving across the blue sky of our awareness for a classroom wall. Well, that's amazing. Please, please, please take pictures when it happens. Oh, please, oh, please, oh, please. This is so inspiring to share. And Chow had shared some beautiful pictures with me a few weeks ago. So I'm going to encourage you, if you can put it on our shared space. I've started a second channel on our course platform space, which is all about sharing our experience. So whether it's your personal practice or whether it's something that you think a clothesline pulley, that's amazing. I love that. So we can really inspire each other to help spark our imagination and creativity. Lovely.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you. Great. Oh, Terry, you're on. Can I check in? Oh, it was just in case you wanted to share. Sorry. Okay, that's fine. Just wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
So our second practice today is all about happiness. And happiness is a little bit misunderstood, I think, by modern humans. That sometimes we think that happiness is everything being perfect and getting everything that we want. And then that's happiness. And so instead we practice with our happiness to explore the different flavors of happiness. So happiness is much more like ice cream. There are so many flavors of happiness. So there is the kind of happiness that comes from loving or being loved, having people and animals that we love in our life. Gratitude is a flavor of happiness. The sense of rest, of kind of, relief when you get to put down your bags at the end of the day and sit down. Home. So that sense of relief and relaxation is also a flavor of happiness. A sense of laughter, playfulness when we're playing, that contributes to our happiness as well. A sense of wonder, a moment where you were out at night and you were able to look up and see a whole sky full of stars twinkling. And we know, I am a human on a planet in space. It's amazing. So that sense of wonder is another really important feeling for our overall sense of well-being. So happiness has so many different flavors. And in our notes this week, there's a little poster with, I think, 22 flavors, but there are even more flavors. So with this practice, we call it catch happy, which isn't grammatically correct. I am aware of it. So the idea is that we will see if we can catch, just as though you're throwing a ball, to see, can we catch happiness from each other? So happiness is contagious, just like a cold. So when I'm close to someone who has a cold, it's very easy for me to catch a cold. And when I'm close to someone who feels grateful or excited, or they feel very generous or loving, we know that that is also really contagious. So what we will do is a little practice to explore one flavor of happiness for ourselves. And then we take a moment to share our flavor of happiness to see, can we catch it from one another? So I invite you to have a comfortable position again, allowing this moment to be fresh and new. So breathing into this new moment of your life. And I'll suggest many different words about happiness. And you might find one word that resonates, or many might resonate. You might be like a little butterfly going from flower to flower, tasting different flavors of happiness. So when we think of the word happiness, you may think of a warm, smiling energy, maybe a sense of goodness. So there is a flavor of happiness that is bright joy, sense of being so joyful, kind of a bubbly, excited, happy feeling. And you feel really delighted about something. There's the happiness of connection, of feeling a genuine closeness to an animal, to a human, to a part of nature. This sense of ease that comes when you know you belong, that you know someone and they know you. It's quality of friendship. There's a happiness that comes when we can't help but laugh. And sometimes things happen and we just laugh. And that's a beautiful thing for our body to feel the lightness of laughter. Sometimes this happens with children or with dear friends who are grown up. Sometimes we're watching a film or listening to something together. That sense of laughing. And sometimes we feel a sense of wonder or awe, that our being is so struck by the beauty, the amazingness of something. Whether it's a sky full of stars, or a piece of music or art, or a newborn baby, often fills us with a sense of just stunned wonder, extraordinary feeling. And the flavor of gratitude is another flavor of happiness, a moment where we were so appreciative and thankful. Our heart was so touched by something. It may have been an act of kindness, someone caring for us or listening to us. It may have been a moment where we realized all that we have in our life, so much to be grateful for. And hope, the ability to feel hope, is another flavor of happiness. So we might have an idea about something in the future and be able to feel this very bright hope going, oh, I hope this happens. I hope this is how it feels. I hope this will be great. So sensing how that enlivens our heart. And a little bit related to hope is a sense of excitement. That feeling when you are so sure that something wonderful is going to happen. You're so sure. So exciting. You might remember as a child going to bed before a birthday or a Christmas or another holiday and being so sure the next day was going to be amazing. And then the feeling of peace is another really important flavor of happiness. You need to be able to feel deep peace. That sense of being still, maybe a sense of clarity, a sense of not grasping, not pushing or pulling things away, just really established and grounded, peaceful in this moment. An amazing ingredient of happiness. And then our own ability to offer kindness also is a flavor of happiness. These moments where we offer a kind thought or word or action. We might think of our sense of care if we were with a baby who was crying. You know, when a little tiny baby cries, our first instinct is to pick up the baby, just to snuggle the baby first, and then figure out what's wrong after. For children, sometimes the image of a kitten that's a little bit scared and meowing, or a little puppy that's trembling and whimpering can really touch their hearts. That they go, oh, little baby animal. So we know that we offer kindness in so many ways. We help in our family. We might help a stranger. We offer kindness to ourselves when we need it. So being able to feel the energy of kindness in you. And then you might allow yourself to simply bask, to sit for a moment. Coming back to the word happiness. To the sense that happiness is possible right now. We don't ever need to wait to be happy. There is enough in this moment to allow us to experience one of the flavors of happiness. Maybe the feeling of being safe, knowing that you are in a building that was built to keep humans safe. It was built especially for our species to keep us safe. Knowing that we have access to water so that we can replenish, keep our body fresh. Knowing that there's someone that we care about, an animal or a human, who's very easy to love in this moment. And knowing that someone cares about us. That there are people or animals that when they see us or when they think of us, sense of deep care and open-heartedness arises. And the joy of having a circle that is authentic and honest, these humans from all around the world who have come together to create this space. It's very precious. And you might have your own ingredients of happiness to add in. You can create a space for us to explore for a few moments in silence. You can release your attention. We'll take a momentary break from the screen. So I invite you to look as far away as possible. Just find a window or a door. Just sensing how far away can you see. And allow your eyes to be soft, the gaze to be soft. So we don't need to grasp what we're looking at. It's like it meets us halfway. It's a soft, far away gaze. And then coming closer, you might look around you to find a color that you enjoy. Is there a color in the room that is a beautiful color for you at the moment? And again, we allow our eyes to rest, just taking in a beautiful color for a moment. Good nourishment. Our mind is very sure that it understands the colors straight away, but it takes about 20 seconds for our body to feel know the color. It's like intellectually knowing that it's a nice day versus really feeling the breeze against your cheeks, the sun against your face. So we allow ourselves to be a little slower than our brain thinks that we need. And you can release your attention. So maybe we can go into smaller groups to connect. So this is what we'll do in the small groups, is the second part of Catch Happy, where we see how contagious happy is. How contagious is the happiness. And so in our small groups, the invitation is to just share what your flavor of happiness was. It can be so simple, like so simple. I had coffee this morning that was just the perfect, just a beautiful, tasty morning coffee. Very simple flavor, or it could be something that has profound meaning for us. So please take your time, and we aim to share from our hearts. And we aim also to listen from the level of our hearts. So not intellectually, kind of drawing in and understanding, but more like receiving someone else's experience. And when we receive someone's happiness in this way, we can check to see, does it spark something in us? I remember one time we did this with a group of maybe 6 or 7 people, and one person's happiness was the flavor of wonder. And she shared that her job is to meet babies when I think they're 3 days old. And she said the sense of wonder never goes away. And the whole circle was like, oh, newborn baby. Amazing. It was so contagious. It was so easy. And sometimes, children will share about funny things or, food, funny moments, something exciting happening. And we can just be with them and just see, is their happiness contagious? Can we receive their happiness at the level of our hearts? So while the breakout rooms are going on, people are sharing their flavors of happiness together. And so if this is a solitary moment for yourself, you can take a moment to reflect on the flavor of happiness, how it felt in our bodies, in our minds, in our hearts. Just allowing yourself to kind of re-feel that flavor. And if there's anyone today, a human, an animal, anyone that you can tell the story to, then it's a beautiful thing to do, to allow yourself to feel it one more time and to see, is it contagious for them when you share from your heart. And neurologically, in our brains, what this does is it makes it easier for us to feel the same sensation again. So I might think I'm not very grateful, but actually if I practice with the flavor of gratitude, really feel how that feels, noticing it, then for several hours later, it is more easy for me to feel gratitude. So we're literally priming our ability to feel these sensations. So it's really good to try out all the different flavors of happiness that we can think of, to allow ourselves to embody them so they can be living energies in us. And then we help to keep them strong and accessible through our whole life. So I wish you happy reflecting, and I'll pause until we all rejoin together. Everything else is to do. Thank you. Yeah, and I'm going to forget probably every week. So that's why we have community. So one of the things we notice as we go around is that there might be one thing that costs money, that most of the things that actually already make us happy are things that are to do with people who we love, animals that we love, funny moments, tasty moments. They're very, very simple flavors of happiness that are already here. And neurologically, what is happening in our minds or in our brains is that by feeling wonder or joy or playfulness, and by really like feeling it as an embodied experience, then you have made yourself more vulnerable to that for several hours. So when we really take in joy or wonder or relief, then it's a little bit easier for us to feel that for several hours. So that when we do this regularly, we are literally training our capacity to feel kindness, connection, which some of us, feel very isolated. And it is literally a trainable skill that with practice, we become more and more able to experience these states more and more easily. So when we look at the poster of all the flavors of happiness, there might be some that feel very familiar, and there might be some that don't feel as familiar, but all of them with practice feel more natural. It's more easy for us to experience the sensation of it. So I wish you much happy which happy embodying and sharing as well of the different flavors. Like knowing that sometime, in a family or in a classroom, someone might be very excited, but someone else might be really relieved, like really relieved. And my teacher calls it the joy of non-toothache. And he will often introduce it as like, have you ever had a toothache? And so the whole room goes, uh-huh. And then he's like maybe like even nerve pain, toothache. And you can really sense the discomfort of that pain. And then he'll go, and what is it now? And we're like, no pain, joy of no toothache. So with children, often I'll say, has anyone ever fractured a bone or broken a bone? And so they talk for ages about all of their illnesses, all of their accidents, all of the shocks of their life. And then we hold up our arms with no casts because our bones have healed themselves and we don't have that pain now. That's great. So we can make good use. Christina used the phrase, no mud, no lotus. And so we can make good use of a little bit of muddiness, a little bit of pain in our past, in order to grow our understanding of the goodness that's in this moment. So sometimes it's to do with what's already present, and sometimes it's to do with the fact that we know things can be much more difficult. And so like this is lucky. It's a lucky moment in some way. So we can really cultivate our understanding of all that's already here. So thank you so much for being together. Let us do a short practice to close. And then after the practice, if anyone has any questions, I can stay on the call. I just don't want to keep anyone too long. So taking a fresh look one more time to see what's an appropriate position for your body. Coming home to your extraordinary self with all of the kindness, all of the care, all of the curiosity, the fascination that's possible, to see what is this moment like for you. And allowing yourself to be supported by the earth, just as you are. You have this moment of nowhere to go and nothing to do, and no one else to be except yourself. So may this be a moment where we are able to recognize how we're feeling, to recognize our weather, the wonderful aspects of this moment, the difficult aspects of this moment. And really allow all of ourself to be included so that we fully belong just as we are. Who we are right now is already more than good enough. May we take time to listen inwards. May we take time to notice the flavors of happiness that are already ribboning through our day. May we know that coming home to ourselves is always an act of courage and an act of kindness, a real gift to ourselves. And that by taking care of ourselves, you are already taking care of all of us and of everyone else in your life. So this precious gift of self-care is a gift to all of us. So thank you for taking good care of your precious heart. And we'll end with 2 sounds of the bell. May we take time to taste all the flavors of happiness in our life. So thank you so much for being together. And for those who will join us later, thank you so much for practicing together. And if you have any questions, if there's practices you would like to share, please join us on the community platform. And I'll stop the recording.